All right, thanks for joining us. We wanted to take a little bit of time to go through the new golf lottery and reservation system. If you haven't heard yet, we have implemented a new tee time reservation system and also implemented a lottery system on top of our booking, our general tee time reservation and booking system. So we're going to take a little bit of time to go over that with you in a little bit of detail. That's what this video is all about. And then there's going to be subsequent videos where you can actually go through the tutorial of looking at the system from the user side and understand it a little bit better. But this video will take you through what is the lottery system and why we're doing it. So the first thing you need to know is the first big change is that we are no longer having reserved weekend morning tee times for leagues and clubs. So if you haven't known, uh, over the past many years, we've had designated, blocked off, reserved tee times for certain groups in certain leagues on Saturdays and Sundays during the mornings. And we have gotten rid of that. And the biggest reason for doing that is to increase the accessibility to all our members and not just a select few members. So this is big news. If you're one of those people who have always complained about not being able to get a tee time on a Saturday or a Sunday morning, now you will be able to, or you'll have a fair shot at getting it. The other thing that this system will do is get rid of the need to set your phone alarm to go on when that 7-day booking window opens. Generally, it was at 6 p.m., 7 days in advance of the time that you wanted. So people would have to rush to their phones or to their computers at 6 p.m. to try and beat everyone else to try and get a tee time for that week in advance, which again, it was always first come, first serve at that point in time. But if you were working or you weren't able to get to your phone or make the tee time in time, you lost out on that opportunity. So this system will allow you to put requests in up to 30 days in advance at your own leisure. And then essentially it's going to take all those requests for that specific day. And 1 week in advance of that tee time, it will assign tee times based on a weighted lottery system. So again, why are we doing this? We're giving fair access to more weekend tee times. Again, that's over 2 hours of tee times that have been freed up on Saturday and Sunday that were previously reserved and blocked off for certain groups of golfers. So if you were complaining about not ever being able to get a tee time and you just gave up on it, now you have an equal opportunity to get it. Also, it just allows you to make requests at your own schedule. You don't have to try and beat the clock. And then once you do get into the system, you'll notice that it's much more user friendly, and it is just a cleaner system in general. So what is the lottery system in a nutshell? We'll give you like the Clip Notes version of that. Essentially, everyone who wants to golf on a specific day can put in a lottery request. 1 week prior to the desired day of golf, the system will take all of those requests and they'll assign tee times based on a weighted lottery system. Specific to weekend golfers, specific to weekends, I should say, golfers that get a tee time within their preferred time range receive a point on their account, which bumps them down a little bit in their priority for their next lottery request. Now, what this does is essentially levels the playing field, allowing a golfer who didn't get a tee time a better chance of getting a tee time for his next request. Points on your account are cleared from your account on a rolling 30 days, meaning a point that's assessed to your account on July 1st would be cleared off on July 31st. We'll talk a little bit more about the points in general a little bit further into the presentation. But essentially what you need to understand is that the name of the game is better access for all golfing members, not just a select few, but everybody. What you also need to understand, again, is the lottery system is meant for members only. So who's a member? Who do we consider a member? Anyone who's purchased a resident ID, a resident season pass, or even non-residents who purchase season passes are all members in our system. So they have access to the lottery system, and then after the lottery is pulled for a specific day, then they have 7-day access in advance to book ahead of non-members, or what we call general public, who have a booking privilege is only 4 days in advance. So again, it's a lottery, which happens 7 days in advance. The lottery is actually drawn on midnight, 12:01 a.m. to be specific. So on 12:01, 7 days in advance of the time you want to book, the lottery is drawn. And then after that, it opens up for normal booking. Again, normal booking is you grab a tee time right off the system, right on the spot, and you have that confirmed. And that's 7 days in advance for members. And then the normal booking period for non-members, 4 days. So to kind of clarify things, if you're a little confused, let's just give you a timeline example of what it would look like. Okay, say you want to golf on Saturday, July 14th. You can put in a request up to 30 days in advance and as little as 1 minute before or 2 minutes before the lottery draws for that day. So in this scenario, if you wanted to golf on July 14th, you could put in a request Friday, June 13th, all the way up until Friday, July 6th at 11:59 p.m. Now note that it doesn't matter whether you make that request on June 13th or Friday, July 6th. There's no advantage either way. It's just a convenience for the golfer to be able to set and put in requests at their convenience. So then the lottery auto draws the tee times 1 week in advance, 7 days in advance. So in this scenario, at 12:01 a.m. on Saturday, July 7th, the lottery system is going to automatically draw. It'll go through the preferences and the algorithms and draw the tee times for each group. Those groups will get their email confirmations set out at 10 a.m. on Saturday. That should say July 7th. I apologize there. So on Saturday, July 7th, they would get their tee times sent out to them, confirming what time. So if you put in a request at 9 a.m. and perhaps maybe you were a little bit lower on the priority, you got a tee time at maybe 9:45 a.m. You would get that confirmation saying, congratulations, your tee time for July 14th is at 9:45. And then as soon as those emails get sent out, then the member booking window opens up for the remaining open tee times. So for example, if you were, say, a golfer that, I don't know, it was, for instance, say July 10th, let's say July 9th. Okay, so it was July 9th, and you said, hey, I want to golf with a couple buddies. Let's try and make a tee time. You would then just go into the normal booking window, just like you would previously last year, and go into the system and grab a time right there on the spot. And if you're a non-member, you can do that 4 days in advance. So starting July 10th, if you wanted to book a time on July 14th, you can go ahead into the system as a normal booking window and on the spot grab whatever tee times are available. So hopefully that timeline makes a little more clarity on how the system works. Lottery system, followed by the regular booking period for members, followed by the regular booking period for non-members. So how is your group's position in the lottery determined? What you need to know about the positioning in your lottery is essentially that every group entered into the lottery is designated a random number. So that's step number 1. So it's just a random number generator. It will assign your group a number. Next, the success in securing a tee time as close to your requested time as possible has to do with 2 factors. The first factor is the ranking of your group. Essentially, your group rank is determined by who is in your group. So the rankings look as follows. So the top rank is going to be a foursome consisting of 4 members. Then the second ranking is going to be a threesome with 3 members. followed by a twosome with 2 members, followed by a foursome with 3 members and 1 guest, followed by a foursome with 2 members and 2 guests, followed by a single golfer, 1 member, followed by a foursome with 1 member and 3 guests, and then a threesome with 1 member and 2 guests, and then the last ranking would be a twosome with 1 member and 1 guest. Now you might be looking at that and saying, well, why would a single golfing member have a higher priority than perhaps 1 member with 3 guests? And here's the reason for that, is because people are smart enough to figure out that if let's say a foursome 1 member and 3 guests was a higher priority, they would just say they're golfing with 3 guests and then go to golf on that specific day with no intention of having 3 guests and get out on the course. And that would cost the city money because we'd be losing out on 3 other potential revenues for that foursome. So what this is doing is allowing the 1 member to make that tee time. But it's also important to understand that if you're a single golfer or a twosome or even a threesome, though you may have a higher priority, you will have other people grouped together. So threesomes will be grouped with single golfers, twosomes will be grouped with other twosomes to fill the tee sheet to increase the efficiency of getting people out onto the course. And then obviously from a financial standpoint, it's just more economically sound to do it that way. And that's what other golf courses do. So if you're a single golfer and you think you're going to get out on the course by yourself, that's probably not going to happen unless absolutely nobody else wanted to golf at the time you wanted to golf. So you do get paired based on time and by your group. So again, twosomes will be groups with other twosomes around the same time. Threesomes will be grouped with a single golfer. And again, that will just make things more efficient. The name of the game for the course obviously is to have groups of 4. That maximizes the efficiency of everything. And then the other factor, so the first factor again for this weighted lottery is your ranking, and then the second factor is the average point value for your group. And we'll talk a little bit more about points later, but what you need to know that is that it's going to take the point of each golfer in your group and find the average. So it would take your total grouping and divide by 4 to find your group average. And then lastly, if all things are equal and there's a tie, between a ranking and the same point average between the groups, it's going to use that random number generator that it assigned you, and that will go by the lowest number for priority. So we'll go through an example a little bit later that will kind of clarify and make things make a little more sense. But before we do that, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about points. So once your rank has been determined, and your group has been determined again, we talked about this idea of points being one of those determining factors. So within the system, you can get points on 2 different aspects. The first one is when you make a tee time reservation and you don't use it, so you no-show, you'd automatically be hit with 2 points on your account. So it's extremely important. Again, when people make bookings and they don't use it, that costs the golf course money. And it's aggravating for other people who wanted to make a tee time and weren't able to use it. So those golfers get penalized and they'll be less likely to make tee times because they'll be lower in the priority list. Again, what we're trying to do is hold people accountable for their tee times and avoid, people making tee times for every single day of the week and just using the tee times they want to use and leaving the other ones open or blocked off and not accessible for other people. Secondly, you get a point on your account if you hit the tee sheet on a weekend or a holiday. And we have a little chart to show you that will make a little more sense for that. So if you get a tee time on a Saturday, a Sunday, or a holiday between 6:30 and 11:59 a.m., you're going to get a point on your account. If you get a tee time from 12 to 1:59 p.m. on a Saturday, Sunday, or holiday, you're going to get a half a point on your account. And then no points are assessed between 12 and 7 p.m. tee times. and absolutely no points are assessed during the week. And the reason these points are assessed, again, we're trying to make things level the playing field so everyone has opportunities to golf, especially on these prime time weekends, early morning, afternoons, Saturdays, Sundays that people are kind of chomping at the bit to get to. So essentially, if you were lucky enough to get a good tee time on a Saturday morning, and let's say my group didn't get one at all, then the next Saturday that I try and book, I have a better chance because I don't have any points on my system, on my account, because I didn't get a tee time for any of those prime time spots. So it's creating a little bit of fairness and opportunity for more people to access the course on the prime time spots. And we'll kind of just talk real quick through the lottery system. So when you do it, and it will ask you for what time that would be your preferred tee time. So it's essentially you're saying, I would like to golf. If everything was perfect and I had my say for any time, I'd want to golf at, and then you would list your time. So in this example, 8 o'clock would be my preferred tee time. And then it's going to ask me for an acceptable range of tee time. So if 8 o'clock isn't available, how early would you go or how late would you go beyond that 8 o'clock window? So I could set those parameters, and then the system will never assign me a tee time outside of the window. It's important to understand that the smaller that window, the less likely I am to get a tee time because there's less tee times within that window. So you want to be as broad as you possibly can if you want a tee time. So in this case, let's say I put in my tee time 8 a.m. My range of acceptable time would be, hey, I want a tee. I'll take a tee time anywhere between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. And then when the lottery draws, it gives me a tee time assignment of 10 a.m. So that 10 a.m. is 2 hours off my preferred time. So instead of assessing me a total a full point, it's going to assess me a fraction of a point for each hour I'm off my desired time. So in this case, I was off by 2 hours, so I only get 0.8 points when I hit the tee sheet for that tee assignment. Again, also important to note, it will never assign you a tee time outside of whatever range that you indicate is acceptable. Other things to note when you're putting your request in, you can change that request at any point in time. But once the lottery system goes through and assigns the tee times, whoever is assigned on your grouping for that tee time will be assessed a point on their account. If for some reason, let's say, that person gets sick or their schedule changes and they're not available to make it, you can swap them out for someone else, but whoever you swap them out for is going to get a point on their system or on their account. And that person that originally had that point is going to keep that point. And here's why we do that. It prevents a group from intentionally circumventing the system just to get a higher position in the lottery. So for example, assume that you want to golf, and obviously you want the lowest average point value for your group, so you have a higher priority in the lottery system. If you really want to golf with John, but John's got 3 points on his account because he's been golfing a lot on the weekends and been lucky enough to get that, so you say, okay, well then I'll just put Mike down. Mike has no points on his account. And that will lower our point value and give us a higher priority. And once we get the tee time, I'll just swap them out. Well, that's, really cheating the system. So we've created a way to prevent that from happening. So also important to note, like we said, you can get 2 points on your account if you do not show up for your tee time. So if you show up, you make a tee time and you don't show up for any reason and you don't cancel your tee time, you're going to get 2 points on your account. And the reason for that, again, is we want to hold people accountable, because if you're making a booking and you're not using that booking, it's costing us money and it's costing the people that want to golf an opportunity to golf because you're blocking out that tee time. Points are cleared from your account on a rolling 30 days. So again, for an example, if you got a point on your account for hitting a tee sheet on July 1st, On July 31st, that point is removed from your account. And again, tee times can be canceled anytime before 6 a.m. the day of play without a 2-point penalty. So for instance, your group didn't want to golf, something happened, there was a conflict, just cancel up to 6 a.m. before the day of, and you won't receive that 2-point penalty. If for some reason there's a weather event, rain, frost delay, whatever that might be, we will not assess points on those specific days. So you don't have to worry about canceling if the weather's bad. We don't assess points for no-shows on that in that scenario. So let's just take a really quick look to make a little more sense. So we're gonna, just on a small scale, assume 6 groups are all vying for tee times in the lottery. Now, generally, groups will have varying preferred tee times. One group might want to golf at 7, one group might want to golf at 9. But just for this example, because there's so many variables, we're just going to assume that these 6 groups all have a preferred tee time of 7 a.m. to give you an idea of how the lottery would play out. So the first thing you're going to look at is ranking. So that highlighted in yellow, the top ranking is going to be the 4 member groups. So they're all highlighted in yellow. So again, we said it goes by ranking first and then by point value. So then we look at the average point value and we see that the lowest point values, there's another tie. So those 2 groups have a tie with 1 point. So then the third determination for priority would be the random number, which is generated by the system when you make your lottery request. So in this case, this group 001, has the lowest number, so they're going to be the first priority, followed by group 020. So the ranking for the priority, group 001 would be the first priority. They would get the first lottery time at 7 a.m. Again, we're assuming all of these groups wanted a 7 a.m. preferred time. The next group would get a 7:08 time, which is the next, if we're assuming 8 minutes between tee times, they would get the next tee time. And then lastly, that 4th member group 008, who had the 3 points, would be the third priority. They'd get the 7:16 a.m. tee time. Again, the system's looking for the tee times closest to what you had listed as your preferred time. Then the next priority, as we look at our groups, would be in green here, the 2 members. So that group stands on its own. They would get the next priority. So they would get that 7:24 tee time. And then it looks like the final 2 groups are both 3-member 1 guests, highlighted in blue. So again, we're going to the next criteria, which would be points. And we see that the lowest point value is this group 060. So they would be the next priority, followed by group 005, and they would get that 7:40 tee time. So that gives you kind of an example of how it would all play out in the big picture of things. So at first, you're going by your ranking. And then within that ranking, you're going by the point values. And then if everything's equal, you're going by that random number that's generated. And that, in a nutshell, is our lottery system. Again, so to recap, the lottery system weighs the priority based on ranking first, which is who's in your group, how many people are in your group, and then by average points. If all things are equal, it goes to the random number. And again, so when you go ahead and you get into our system, which we have a few video tutorials which you can click on as well. Don't be confused by the language. It's going to say request and it's going to say booking. So just to clarify, a request is you're entering into the lottery, which happens before the booking period. So the lottery takes place 7 days in advance at 12:01 a.m. on the 7th day before your time, and you're vying for tee times based on who else put in lottery requests. So the more people that put in requests, the more people you're competing with those tee times. That lottery will go off and have the draw again at 12:01, 7 days before. You'll get an email confirmation of what your time is. So you might request a time, again, a 9 a.m. time. That does not mean that you have that time. It just means you have put in a request And that at that when it does the draw and it sends out the confirmation email, that's when you find out what time you actually got. So you could request a time at 9 a.m. and you could find out that your confirmed tee time is 9:30 or 9:45 or whatever time it assigns you, but it will never assign you a time outside of the window that you put in for. And again, the benefits of this whole lottery system too is the convenience of being able to make requests at your convenience. You can do it up to 30 days in advance. Again, no longer having to log in at 6 p.m. 7 days before, trying to beat everyone else into the system and fight for those times. And then again, when you go into the system, you'll see that request option, but then you'll also see the booking option. So after that lottery draws out and it assigns all those tee times, all the available tee times that are left just become open for booking. Again, and then that booking process is the same as it's always been for us. 7 day window. So at 10 a.m., 7 days in advance, members will be able to book tee times and grab them right on the spot. There's no lottery after that. There's no request after that for that specific day. You just grab the tee time, and as soon as you grab it, it's confirmed. And then for non-members, it's 4 days out. And also important to note, this year, bookings can be made up to 90 minutes prior to the desired tee time. So we've done that as a convenience as well. So if you decide, hey, I want to golf today, you can go right in the system and up to 90 minutes prior and get a tee time. So you don't have to just walk on and hope that there's available time. You could actually book on that same day. And that is it. So hopefully you guys that clarifies some stuff. It's good for our course. It's gonna be great for you guys, make things more convenient. I understand it's change and some people don't like change, but at the end of the day, it's going to it'll be great. You'll get to understand the system and you'll get to understand why we've moved in this direction. But like I said, make sure that you go ahead and you click on the video tutorial, which will walk you through the actual reservation system and explain how it works and what to do. And that will make a ton of sense and make things more clear for you. Again, if you have any other questions, certainly email us or you can give us a call. We'd be happy to discuss everything with you. And again, we look forward to seeing you golfing at Deerwood this year.